Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Things I Wish I Knew About. This week, we're going to talk all things real estate. And we have one of my favorite people as our guest today, my high school longtime from-time bestie. Are you Laar now?
I'm a Laar now.
Oh my
No.
goodness, not Seagal at all anymore. Sheetal is my legit high school bestie. We met in drama class in 1997.
Wow. You don't have to specify the details, but okay.
In 1997. And then that was it. It was love after that forever. Hi, Sheetal. Thanks for coming.
Oh my God, thanks for having me.
Sheetal just moved. This is perfect timing, actually, because she just moved full time to Peck, Prince Edward County, if you're not from Ontario, which is like west of Toronto. And it's like the place, right? Wineries and cideries and water.
And agriculture and foodies and literally Toronto, like a nice percentage of Toronto people
For real.
have just gotten up and moved there.
It's your favesies.
It's a vibe.
Okay, so give people like just a really brief intro of how you got into real estate, maybe. Let's just start there. And then I have questions that people have written in to ask. And then I have a bunch of questions. So we'll just kind of start with how you got into it.
I think weirdly, if I think back, it was my mother who we were renting out her basement apartment, and she was so kind of she kept getting people in with no written form or no contract. And
Just trust.
I think I was 17 or 18. I'm like, Mom, you need a contract. Like,
Before
you've
university.
got to write this down. So that was sort of my first intro into real estate, was just managing now her basement apartment as a teen.
In Scarborough.
And then in Scarborough.
Yeah.
And then fast forward after university, she bought a building and gave it to me and said, do you think you could do something with it?
She bought a building.
Well, it kind of fell into her hands, like an uncle, Indian relations, like you don't question, you kind of like, sure. Anyways.
I'll take that property. Yeah, no problem. Where was it? In Toronto?
It was Dundas and Jarvis.
You're Dundas.
A fun area.
I lived right on Dundas. Like if you're walking down, the front of your house was the sidewalk.
Of
Dundas
City, it was
yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, I renovated. Then I'm like 21. I have very limited resources, but I found my at the time's brother, who's a contractor, finished up 2 of the suites, turned it into rentals. I lived in one.
Yeah.
I made the downstairs a yoga studio, and then I left for X amount of years. But then when I got back, I was in my late 20s, and I realized I was really good at real estate, when you're kind of thinking about what to do with your life.
Yeah.
And then that began the journey.
So Sheetal went to school, like we met in drama, and then she went to school for film. Yeah. Like you went to Queen's for film and like theater, and that was kind of the thought process at the time. But like, what was the impetus for, like, I don't have a real estate bone. I don't see a home and think, I want to flip it.
Like, that's exactly.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have that. What do you think the draw was for you?
But that's just it. Like the theater and the film and the photography and the art part of it is actually what drove the intention and the desire to go into real estate, because a lot of it is staging and manipulation and going into, and like the house that I got in my 20s.
Yeah.
If you saw the house,
I did.
I mean, it was disgusting. It had like grease coming down. It was blue walls.
For sure.
And I went in and I was like, oh, I can see the vision, and you have to work with what you can see sometimes.
Yeah, you did. It's always been the houses that you've had, even the one that I guess, are you going to sell Coxwell? Anyway,
eventually.
have never really been like your typical traditional 2-story or bungalow house. It's always been like levels and back splits and craziness that you've like turned into these rooms. So yeah, I guess it is a real artistic, they kind of fit hand in hand.
Even the financial part of it, because there's so many loopholes in mortgages.
Oh my God.
I remember my first house, the reason I got it with 0% down. So now, I'm 26 or something, and I'm back in Toronto and I don't know really what to do. So I invested in my first house, which, asked my mom to co-sign it or whatever, with 0 money.
Oh my God.
And 0% down, because during that time there was this odd kind of mortgage rule, because mortgage rules are always changing, that they allowed a first-time buyer to go on with 0% down. So I did that. And that was the house that changed me, though, because I learned so much, the plumbing, the inner workings. Like, so far I had just done, aesthetic improvement.
Because that was a fixer-upper.
That was a
structurally as well as aesthetic.
Exactly. Full flip.
Yeah.
And it was not as lucrative as I imagined.
Sure.
But what I learned
For sure.
has lasted me till now, you know?
So you went back to school, or you went to school, and what is that called? Is it like, what is it? Is it a
It's
course
like
or a diploma?
It's like an Ontario regulated kind of, I guess, certificate.
Okay.
So
And how long does that take? I
that
guess
takes
as long
about
as
a
it takes
year.
you. Okay.
But like you could do it in 6 months, or you
Sure.
could do it in 2 years.
Okay.
But it took me a year as well. There are lots of textbooks and lots of testing, and
Yeah.
you have to test 70%, to pass.
Okay.
Otherwise, you redo it.
And you did that, and you're like, I think this is what I want to do.
I mean, everything is a choice, but I think, yeah, sitting down in my late 20s and trying to decipher what I'm good at using the skills that you have, yeah, that seemed really fitting. And that's what I decided.
And was that kind of for you, for lack of a better word, like in a selfish, I want to buy my houses, or I want to do this for other people?
Yeah, that's a good question, because at first it was about me. Like when I did that first transaction,
you're like, I could do
flipping,
this.
I know. I was like, oh, that's 30 G
Yeah.
I could have acquired
Right.
with the selling and the buying.
Right.
And since my profit margin wasn't huge on that little dinky house, I still go buy it and I'm like, I planted that. Yeah, I did definitely think, even if it was just for me, then this is worth it, because I'm bound to do this. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to, flip houses, renovate houses. I love it. The transformation of space from like a shitty oiled up blue wall to like something with French doors and white wall. Like it's a lot of dopamine, but
well, for you, I think you are built for it. It just has been actually. So like that maybe gets to one of my first questions, which somebody wrote in. What's the difference between an agent and a broker?
So not much.
Okay.
Except like, I remember I'm pretty much done my broker license, but I don't know. I just feel like I haven't done the exam yet, and it would change nothing.
What is a broker?
Just the status. Like, but a broker, if you wanted to go further and open your own brokerage,
okay,
then you'd have to be a broker, right? But that's a lot of liability.
What do they do? What's the difference?
I think when you're a real estate agent, there's so much insurance, there's so many things that can go wrong.
Are you just buying and selling, and a broker can do something different, or a broker is under?
So like a salesperson cannot just, even a broker and a salesperson cannot just buy and sell on their own. They need to be affiliated with the broker.
Oh, okay.
And that affiliation is mostly due to liability.
Just for protection,
for protection,
basically.
something goes wrong along the lines, but you don't just need a broker to start your own company. You need a broker of record, which is a whole different thing with accounting and and then you need salespeople.
But it's basically a protection thing, so it's not like Harold off the street over there. It's like, this guy, I can sell your house, and then you're screwed.
Totally. I don't actually ever recommend, as a small time broker or a salesperson, that you open your own brokerage. Yeah, it's just so much work. Yeah. However, people can do what they want. But yeah, you can't do that as a salesperson.
Workforce, are you under like Remax or Accenture? Whatever?
Well, I work for a boutique sort of Queen Street East agency, which I've done for 15 years. I've moved, but I'm going to stay with them because pros and cons. Well, I don't know if, like, obviously everything has pros and cons. They're not that into what you do. Like, they're not going to provide marketing and all this stuff. Right. So I'm just sort of doing my own thing. I'm in charge of my website, my own marketing. Everything is on my own. I'm self-employed. It's my business. Yeah. But if I screwed up, I have someone that can take care of me. Right. And you have to, according to the, Ontario standard regulations for real estate agents, you must be affiliated with a broker. Yeah.
And if somebody's just starting out, it would make sense, right? Because someone's going to take care of that marketing. They will have a team. They're going to have a name, right?
Exactly. And like a lot of people choose to go the big brands, like for protection. But yeah, I just thought Homeward was an amazing brokerage. The guy that ran it is such an interesting man, right? Such a full life that he kind of wooed me, but he's still amazing.
I mean, it's worked out.
It has worked out.
You're still doing it.
I love it still. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you about, so in the news right now in Canada, there's all of this stuff about interest rates, right? Yes. Interest rates are dropping. Interest rates are raising. No. It's a great time to buy. It's a great time to sell, whatever. But what does that all mean, right? So if we're looking at an interest rate, that's going to be on our mortgage, our loan from the bank, pretty much. Yeah. And it's been fairly high for the last little bit. And I think I could be wrong, but what I hear from people that I know that have bought is that if you're getting into a house, let's say at a great rate, it's like 2.5, you're like, fine, it's low, or it's 1%. And then all of a sudden your rate, actually, let's talk about fixed versus variable before we go into rates. Okay. What is the difference between fixed versus variable? What are the benefits of each? And the cons, I guess.
It's like a gamble.
Gambling. I'm not a gambler. I
seriously.
love a fixed situation.
I'm both. I want to say I'm both. Because like when it comes to mortgages, I like a fixed rate. I
Yeah.
like it, but that's because I'm scared.
Yeah.
And then I see my mom ride the variable rate. I'm like, ooh, she rode that when that was 1.5 to 2.5. She rode it for 7 years.
Oh,
And that
man.
woman saved so much on mortgages, right?
Sure.
Because the idea is that a variable fluctuates the rate so that
Right.
excess. So say you've got in your head that your mortgage is $2,400 a month,
Sure.
but you're riding the variable. The
Right.
variable might change month to month. So it
Yeah.
might only be 1,000 one month, 800 one month.
Right.
But you're still paying 2,000. So all of it's going to your principal.
Yeah.
Which could shave off 5 to 10 years
Totally.
off the end. The fixed, however, for us, millennial
Say
type A personalities, it's just nice to have that amount fixed. However, I know you're not asking, but my recommendation always
No, I'm
is
asking.
you go and you pay 200, 300, 400, 500 extra, whatever you can do.
Every
on that
month.
fixed rate, every month.
Yeah.
If you can. Because that goes directly to your principal.
Yeah.
And over time, it's like an REAL.
Oh, for
it
sure.
just really grows.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
So basically a fixed rate, let's say we signed a 5-year, whatever, a fixed rate. It's like, we're locked in 4%. If the market happens to be 1, sucks to be me. It is what it is.
Totally.
But if the market, like it did a couple years ago, goes up to like
Yes.
8,
Yes.
then you're okay. You're like, haha, burn on you, I'm still good.
Totally. But you also have to look at the fluctuations that have been happening year
Historically.
to year. Like you can make an educated guess.
Sure.
And I remember 8 years ago when I signed a fixed at 4-year, that was pure fear.
Right.
From me and my partner who scared me. And, and there was a part of me that wanted to gamble. But then again, it depends, what your influences are.
For
who you're
sure.
married to.
Did
all
you
this
know a
other stuff.
pandemic was going to come?
No
Like,
one knew, right?
No.
But we could have educationally looked at the patterns
Right.
in
Strategically.
real estate and seen
For sure.
that for the last 10 years it was high, and then the next 10 years it was low, and now for these 8 to 10 years, in my opinion, it's going to in the 4 to 6 sort of zone.
Is that where it is right now?
Oh.
So it was just all over the news. It's like Canada's interest rate, but that's not
It's dropped, but it's not dropped that much. Like it's not nowhere close to 2.5.
No.
Or even 4,
Right.
But like, I think they're trying to, from again, an educational perspective of reading some articles, seeing what the Bank of Canada is all about, and then also looking at the global economy,
Yeah.
to see like, where's the US right now? In real estate, where is the US? Where is that headed?
Right.
How that affects Canada.
So like something like Florida, let's say, where there's a lot of snowbirds
Yes.
who are in a position where they're like, fuck,
Yeah.
I either have to get rid of my house right now. Like they have an influx. Their market is inundated with sales,
Right.
homes that are for sale because Canadians,
Backed up.
many reasons, are like, we're out, right? So they're coming home.
Yeah.
So that's going to affect our market here, right? Because do people need to purchase here? Do they have homes here? Like, is there going to be a high need for whatever? So we need to look at kind of outside of Canada.
And it's common sense.
Yeah.
It's so common sense. Like we can read the news and get scared. Or because a lot of times the articles are perpetuating, a certain article might perpetuate a certain thought that may or may not be accurate. Right?
Sure.
I've read so many articles back in I can't remember, 16, 17, something like that, where they were, even earlier maybe, where they were projecting a recession for the US.
Right.
And saying how badly it's going to hit Canada and Canada's going to be, and you know what? Canada didn't even fumble with that recession. Like, we were A-okay.
Yeah.
Canadian markets stayed on top. The big cities stayed on top. Obviously, you've got the higher end stuff that might always be affected, like the $12 million homes. Like, sure.
So what we're shopping.
At night, of course.
Oh,
but,
God. I love Realtor.com. I'm like, just over here. Like, just
5.7.
I literally saw someone to Lou yesterday. It was 3.4. I'm like, babe, look at Jesus.
I love that though, because when I think about how I started with absolutely nothing, like single mom, no money to my name, I couldn't finish my last semester because of OSAT difficulties, and my brain just saying to me, I can do it. I can do
I know
this
you've always had
crusty
that
project on Dundas and Jarvis, and I could just do it. And it kind of, since we're talking so much about the US, it reminds me of Trump too, like how absolutely neurotic his brain is, but I
Just
mean, no one likes it,
delusional,
but like the
for
fact
sure.
that he thinks he can do that and does it
And just
should
does it.
give everybody
Honestly.
inspiration. Let's take what we can get from this situation.
Do you think, so taking that situation, do you think something like that would be possible today? If there's somebody listening and they're in their mid-20s and they're like, I want to get
You know
into the
what?
market.
I always say 100% because like I still have no money and
Yeah.
I do things that are way beyond my league. Like I just built 3 homes
Yes.
out of nothing, and they're, out of a property we bought 8 years ago for $100,000.
Is that still possible? Are there properties that
Like
are
anything is possible, but like let's say in Prince Edward County, maybe not for 100K,
sure?
but could you buy it for 250?
Right.
For 4 now? Sure.
Really, eh?
And you can sever it, and I think the creativity really feeds into that. Like,
Yeah,
late
yeah.
at night, you're like, oh, I have 50 acres. What could I do? And one could just be resell it.
Yeah.
But, we decided to then like sever it.
So is that something that I would want to, so I don't know anything about this. Let's say I had a plot of land that's 5 acres.
Right.
Could I just decide where I want to
No.
sever it? Or I would need to speak with an agent or a
professional,
land
an agent, even just
developer?
the bylaws.
Right.
Like, because all the bylaws and street to street sometimes varies.
Do people come to you and they say, hey, I have 10
Yeah.
acres. What would you recommend?
That's not the request I get because I just moved to the country. And so a lot
Would
of
you like
people,
that?
I would love to give advice for what I've done because, you learn so much.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now I'm this like walking encyclopedia of real life events.
Yeah.
And I remember a while ago, I think I wanted to almost focus only on like single moms who needed help because there's like altruistic part of me. But obviously now you sort of, you live your life, and
Yep.
if someone needs help and your paths cross, your paths cross. But I never want to say no, because if you have a drive and you have a passion and you kind of feel, or even your gut is saying invest,
Yeah.
then invest, because
Yeah.
everyone will always need a place to live.
You think land is
And
a good investment?
To me, safe to say, real estate is the safe
Yeah.
bet if there's a caveat, if you know where you're investing.
Right.
Because it's like anything,
Yeah.
you don't want to invest in an up and coming artist, but if you found a Picasso, like,
Yeah.
that would,
Right.
gain some traction. So you need to know what you're doing.
Right. And you are really passionate about it. Like, this is not just something that like you're like, oh, I do real estate on the side, which a lot of people do, which is fine because maybe they want to sell to their family or,
Yeah.
do small whatever. But this is like passion project for you from like all the way to the very, very end.
I mean, I remember my first house, in order to buy it, I didn't have to sacrifice it, but I kind of had to make a choice, like get married.
Huge wedding. I love your Eric. I'm just kidding. I love your Eric.
I kind of almost no, there's no regret in having this big party, but like where we were,
Right.
we were, 27,
For sure.
not a lot of parental support in that sense.
Yeah.
And our parents were willing to pay for a wedding.
Sure.
And at that point, I was like, I'd love a wedding, but if we don't invest this, we're not going to have a house.
Yeah.
And then not only did we do that, but we got something with the basement apartment.
So you took the money that was designated for a wedding
into our first house.
and then she had a very small kind of elopement.
Still had eloping,
wedding.
like it was still fun. And it was, we had, a honeymoon, which was the most important.
We traveled.
Exactly. 3 weeks in Costa Rica. It was worth it. But it was like, that was my own savings. But that chunk we put into our first house, got a basement apartment renter. Wasn't amazing, but we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
And then 7 years later, it appreciated from 300 to 950.
Yeah, bananas.
So then we pulled out, and then that's really the start of where we were able to invest a bit better.
Yeah. And that was the plan. You were like, I'm going to take this money and turn it into something.
But I guess like my advice for people would be when you're selling, let's say you've got your nest egg, in it for 7 years or whatever, 5 years, and it's appreciated.
Yeah.
A lot of times what people do is take that and then buy a bigger house.
Right.
And that's fair.
Sure.
That's your prerogative. Like, don't not give it to yourself if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about the future and maybe you don't have you're self-employed,
Yeah.
you don't have a pension, and that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff pops out in your head, you need to divide that,
Right.
the profit
Not
that you
sink all of that.
because you can put it all in, but like I always say, you don't have to. You
Right.
can put a lower down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And people get scared with that because they're, oh, well, my CMHC fees are going to be higher.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to be paid off. And I just don't know if the goal anymore is to pay off your mortgage in 30 years.
What do you think it is?
I think very like, yeah, some people stay in the same house for 30.
Because there is a mentality, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
that's what you buy a house, you pay off the house, that's it.
And it's not our mentality. It's our parents' mentality.
It is for sure an older person.
And the interest rates were really high.
It made a lot of sense. The houses were like 38 grand.
You
like
pay for it cash.
Totally.
You bought it.
Totally.
So that was the mentality. You live here, you pay it off.
Yeah.
And I swear it's just not the same anymore.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody that stayed in their house more than 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Lou and I are kind of in that boat right now. We're happy to be here, but as Cooper's aging out, right? And I don't need to be near his dad anymore. And his dad wants to move, and Coop, who knows where he's going to go. So we're like, what do we want to do? You know, like, what do we do? And the house is appreciated just because of when we bought.
The equity.
Just because of when we bought. They built the 407. We lucked out, right? So now we're in a position of like, we don't need a larger home. I don't want a larger home. Honestly, like 25 max square feet is plenty, but it's like, where do we find this house? What do we do with that? We don't want to get into a mortgage with an amortization of 30 years. Yeah, 2 million, you know, like, we don't want to go up level like that, but we're not in a position to downsize. It's a real kind of like limbo, you know?
But also, if you change your perspective, for instance.
Change it. Tell me.
I say go for the longer amortization. This is me.
Yeah.
This is me saying go for 30.
I'm not anti.
Go for 35. Who cares?
Do I hear 60?
But the only reason I say this, and again, if your actual goal, which is for some people, to stay in the same place forever, then, that is your decision. But let's say, you're not sure.
Yeah.
And you're open to things changing, children moving, downsizing, all that stuff. And 35 years seems like a long time. To me, I think what's important is your day-to-day, your month-to-month. So put a low mortgage, like a low down payment, if you can, if it makes sense. The numbers need to work for you. But I think your monthly numbers should also be taken into account
100%.
because that's your life.
And then we have property.
Right? Nobody wants dinners out. That's your everything.
Is it 30% of your income should go to mortgage? Is that kind of what it is?
I mean, again, I just think if these numbers are made in the 50s, then ignore them.
Yeah.
Like create your own, like the numbers that make sense with you, like a modern day take on what it means to own a house, what it means to make money from a house. And there's different types of people that want to settle and have a home your whole life. And then other people that might be thinking more investment, more, okay, my child, I need a house for my child.
For sure.
Because
I think a lot of people
I'm not going to have money or whatever.
For sure. A lot of people, I think their homes are their children's, it's their pension, but it's also their children's inheritance. Because this is what I have. I don't have anything else. I have a home.
Yes.
So they're desperate to hang on to it for that reason.
I mean, and it's sweet, but it's also archaic. And you don't have to not think about your kids, but like take out, like, for instance, if you moved, and you made 500,000 profit, okay, I would say Stacey, take 80 to 100 and buy a little condo on the side or buy a little property on the side for Cooper.
Yeah.
And figure out what you want to do with that. And it might be that you want to put down, for your down payment for your next house because the numbers work out. Yeah. And then you have 100K left. And then I would like to say, Stacey, what would you do with that?
You're like, book our trip to France already.
Well, that's just 5K. So don't worry. You'll have a place.
She desperately tries to make me travel.
Well, she's going to one day because, I'm going to renovate a chateau.
It's true. She's going to invest in Europe. So talk to me about a down payment then. Like, so is our down payments, is it 20%? Like, I know CMHC, does it still have that 5% thing?
No, it doesn't. And it changes all the time.
Okay.
So the mortgage rules change. Who you work with is really important because I'm not in mortgage, but I've worked with so many mortgage brokers and agents that I can say to you, the loopholes are tremendous.
Right.
It's like learning the rules of a game and you can play a card. But if you are not experienced in the world of mortgages and the current bylaws, then you just end up kind of getting, I guess, especially if you have a different situation where you're self-employed or something like that, then I don't know, you're kind of, not doing the best you can if you're not using an experienced.
And a broker's job is to kind of shop the best rate for you.
Yeah. And again, I'm not pushing a broker versus an agent.
Oh, sure.
I'm just pushing one or the other, like who you feel has knowledge.
Right.
And that could be a guy at TD Bank that you walk into, and it could be a guy who runs his own mortgage broker. That is really up to your character kind of judgment. But But yeah, because there are so many rules.
And you as an agent, do you work with specific mortgage people?
I try not
or is it
to.
up to the client?
I think it's up to the client. Similar to like a lot of fraud happens when the realtor, the lawyer, and the
Right.
mortgage agent are in cahoots. So I do
Right.
recommend, of course, people that if I've worked with and they've done really well, I'll say, oh, I worked with so and so. But I like to give 3 recommendations for everything. That's my rule. So
Just for you.
everything, that's more of a me thing.
Mhm.
Like if I'm going to give you a lawyer, I'll give you 3.
Right.
That way, if something goes wrong, it's not like you gave me this lawyer.
Right.
But that's obviously just a personal thing.
So then, well, let's talk about that too, because I think if let's assume somebody's never bought a house before and they're buying their first home, there are many fees and kind of factors that you don't necessarily know going into it, right? Like I think people think I have an agent, I need to pay my agent, but on top of that, there's the mortgage person, whatever. You
Mhm.
also need a real estate lawyer.
I'm aware.
There's closing
Mhm.
fees. Like there's a whole gamut on top of that. So like on average, let's say somebody bought $1 million home. Let's just
Mhm.
keep it easy. On average, what would you say like closing costs? How much do people kind of need to think I need an extra 25 grand, 50 grand? Like, does that fluctuate?
Personally, yeah. Well, personally, I have a little sheet that says sellers net like prices and
Right.
the buyer's prices. And so I like to give that to them right at the beginning.
Okay.
Because for instance, if you're buying, it's different from selling, first of all, right? They're different
Your fees?
Totally different.
Do you still need all the same things?
No, because when you're selling, you definitely need like a lawyer still, but
Okay.
the cost will actually be a little bit less because there's less work.
Right.
When you're buying, you are paying land transfer tax. That's the kind of the biggie there.
Okay.
That's
And that's all on the buyer
it's yes, and it's approximately 3%, right?
of the total
Of the
cost
total
of the
cost.
sale.
So for like $1 million,
Yeah,
it would be 3% of $1 million, approximately.
Sure.
Every region is a bit different. If you're a first-time buyer, you get a huge cut.
Yes.
So that's a great incentive. If you didn't know anything about anything and you came to me, it would be great because I'm really organized and
Sure,
like
she's
a
gonna
teacher. So I'm
flip
like,
your house for you.
yeah,
She'll be like, I have 3 properties in heck that I just flipped, I just made.
but it's also like, sometimes you don't even realize like the seller commission, for example, right? If you're selling,
Yeah.
you have the seller pays both commissions. To the buyer's agent and the selling.
Oh.
But sometimes people don't add the plus HST. And sometimes I think, oh gosh, how could you not have mentioned that?
Yeah.
Because if you're selling $1 million house and
Yeah.
you're paying 5% on that
Yeah.
as a seller, then you're not just paying 5%, you're paying tax on the 5%.
Plus the
So then they find out when they're at the lawyers, and like that's not a happy situation. That's usually 7 to 10 grand more.
oh.
So like that's not the kind of person
Yeah.
I want to be, or I don't promote that. Like you should be really transparent
Yeah.
with all your costs.
For sure.
right?
And it's not like it's your decision. Like this is just
No, I mean, obviously
Ontario-wise.
things are negotiable. There's a lot of second and third type brokerages that will offer less services. And this is all up
Their
to
fees.
their fees. So they
Right.
might say, we're only going to charge you 1%. And that's all well and good. Like you can really do what feels right. But I say interview the person because you can have 6 people working at Remax.
Right.
And a plethora of different skills and integrity.
Yeah.
And I think it's important also not to downplay the role of a really experienced agent and
Yeah.
how they can help you. Like for me personally, I have a storage locker full of, because my background's artistic, I love staging.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I love furniture. So about the 5th year in, I got myself a storage locker and it's full of furniture, but it's a style. Because when you go into a home and you see that style,
Totally.
the style that you cannot buy,
Yeah.
that maybe the person living there has, or maybe your agent has, it's not like
Yeah.
out of a consumer's text, right? It's like
For sure.
actual style,
Yeah.
then that I think can be such an asset to selling your house.
I just read something from an agent and they were like, if I'm selling your home, staging is non-negotiable. I am coming in and staging the shit out of it.
100%. And I do that. And I actually offer it included, which a lot of
Yeah.
people don't, which is crazy. But sometimes, my partner will be like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, they're trusting me to sell their house.
Totally.
And I don't mind spending X amount since I have all of this in a storage locker ready
Yeah.
to go. And to be honest, I enjoy it. I
Would
enjoy
you
it so
take
much
out all
more.
my furniture? Would you get rid of all mine?
Your house, damn it looks so staged. So you know what the answer is.
Would you-
what the answer
Is everything cute? But you would though, right? Because you want to make it look like I think the goal is to have people come in there and see themselves in your home.
Exactly.
Right? It's not a personal slight. It's not like your style. I hate that chair. It's somebody you want everybody or as many people as possible walking into that space to see themselves living in.
Yeah. And so you want to keep a neutral palette, which
Yeah.
you definitely have,
Yeah,
right?
we're pretty neutral as it is.
Exactly. So I would say take off all your personal pictures, take out anything that's political.
We have a giant poster over there that says "War is over." It's John Lennon, but you want to get rid of the personal for sure.
Clear
Empty
the
the fridge,
fridge,
all of our
the counters
stuff.
like empty.
Yeah,
And I annoy so many of my clients because I'll go
I'm
in and
sure.
I'll just start kind of taking all the personal stuff off the surfaces because the
Yeah.
film background is where I've become a little picky, and it's like it has to look a certain way in the photos, and not to stress that enough, but like 90% of people are looking online first.
All the time.
They're not
All
going
the
to
time.
come into a house if it doesn't aesthetically fit what they're thinking.
100%.
So even though you think it's just a bit of chapstick, it's like ruining the flow
Totally.
of that
For
clean
sure.
palette. So
For sure.
so yeah, like I think with real estate agents or anyone you work with, it's nice to have that, the passion and also like the artistic eye.
Yeah.
When you're selling something.
For sure. When we walked into this one, was it? No, it was Laura. Laura did it for me. But we walked in and it was like the first day it was on the market and it was so beautifully done. They had a table here with like glasses filled with rice, halfway up, all like the place settings. It was just like so beautifully done. We walked out. Lou, I'd never told this story before, but we went, so we were looking we were renting in Toronto. We were looking in Toronto, but that was out of the budget. There was no fucking way that was happening she was still in school. But anyway, I was like, let's just look out here. Laura just put me on the list of things that come up, so I would get emails when new listings and this one came up and I was like, let's just go see it. It's the first day on the market. No big deal. So we come in and it's just me and Laura, and Lou's grandmother was literally dying that day. Everybody was at the hospital. I know it was the worst. Like they knew it was coming, but it was like her whole family was there. So me and Laura just came. We did a walkthrough, whatever. And I'm like, it's like lovely. And she's like, it is. But like, we're not looking for real. And I was like, no, we're just not. And then we went upstairs and I was like, but it is really nice. And she's like, it really is. But like, and I said that we were walking out and I was like, but what is it missing?
Yeah.
Like, what is there anything that it's missing? She's like, not really. And I was like, fuck. So I called Lou at the hospital. It was the worst. I called her. I said, listen, I'm so sorry about the timing. This is the absolute worst. I am going to put an offer on this home. You need to trust me. I know you haven't seen it. I know you've never been here. I need you to just trust me that I'm going to put the offer in. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, okay. And we put the offer in that day. She had never seen it. Thankfully, at the time, we could do conditional. So it was conditional. We can talk about that too. It was conditional on inspection. So we had 5 days.
Okay.
And in that 5 days, we saw like 13 homes in the area, just comparatively. But we ended up buying it anyway. And it was like sight unseen. I was like,
But I love that story. It's like it's one of those stories that you forget that buying homes is an emotional thing.
For sure.
It's like somewhere you live. It's not a pair of shoes. And it's not a car either. It's like where you're going to live. And there's definitely, so if the house was cluttered and had someone's ugly furniture, it just creates like a block, like an energy block where you're not like, it doesn't look like that anymore.
Like, this isn't for me.
But you were able to kind of open up your heart to it. And that story just makes me, it reminds me actually of our second home that we bought when I was giving birth. And so we had our first home that we put all our, marriage money into. And then 5 years or 4 years later, my partner's a musician. He was renting a school and they kicked him out. And he was like, oh. And I was pregnant. He's like, I'm having a kid. And you know how men get kind of weird that way? They're like, I need to provide. He starts looking for other houses at the moment. And his grandmother had passed away. So he had a bit of inheritance. I'm like 9 months pregnant. He goes, shows me this place. And it's got like wires and doors and mud, a dirt floor in Toronto. And we're like, what is going on? And I kind of was like, you know what? I can't do this right now. And then the next day I went into labor. And I'm in the hospital, and me and my partner, we don't work well together, like cooking a meal together. We're not we're not that kind of couple. So like he calls me and he's like, I know you've just had a C-section that almost died, but I'm going to put an offer on this. You're going to coax me through writing this offer.
Oh no.
I was like, and at that moment I just was like, okay.
Yeah. Was it the mud floor house?
It was the mud floor house. That's the one on Coxwell. We ended up, making this architectural monstrosity.
Beautiful.
But anyways, it's like that warm kind of weird story where you trust your spouse in that moment, or one of you feels something really strongly.
Yep.
And I think you should go for it. Like those are the feelings I'm looking for when I'm with someone.
100%. That's so fun. And that house is it's right on Cox. I don't know why you feel the need to buy your fucking houses on Main Street.
Because he had a business and he wanted to run a school.
Right,
So
a
even
storefront.
in Dundas, he
Right.
ran his school,
Right.
his music school, and then in Coxwell, that was the reason he ran his
Right,
school.
because the
So-
house is kind of a back split. And you'd never know,
You would never
honestly.
know.
If you're in the back of her home, you would it backs onto a park. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. You would never know that the street.
But before it was even our home, it was a rent. Like, so
Right.
for 4 more years, there was 2 rental apartments
Right.
that paid for his school.
So
So
smart.
he had 0 rent.
Yeah.
And he was able to provide for his family.
But you just make smart choices too, right?
You know, it's one of those things. Like, yes, you want to, if you choose to have children,
Yeah.
there is a financial cost that comes with it.
What?
And you have to figure it out. Like, 2 self-employed people, no
Yeah.
pensions. That's
Yeah.
kind of scary, right? Like,
For sure.
when we turn 60, what are we going to do?
Totally.
I don't know. So those are the things that drive, the fear that drives
Yeah.
the action,
The
to do.
motivation.
Yes. So it's not, fear is not always bad, but
Yeah.
you can use it to channel. Like
The good
what-
stress
yeah,
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about conditional because I touched on
Mhm.
that briefly. So so there was a time when houses were like, you get what you get.
Yeah.
Like
Oh my,
after
I know.
hours. So a conditional offer means I can put in an offer and the conditions I need to meet or the house needs to meet these certain conditions
Yeah.
or there's no penalty and I'm the fuck out.
Exactly.
So for us, it was like there has to be a home inspection.
Yeah.
Someone's going to come in, check it out. I can't remember what the rest, but we had the time,
Yeah.
the 5 days,
Yeah.
and it was contingent on getting the funding
Exactly.
too, right? Because
Financing
we
and
had to
stuff.
get financing from the
Mhm.
bank and we could do those 5 days. But a few years back, all conditions were lifted, right?
What a crazy time, though.
Yeah. So it was like, I'm selling this house.
Yeah.
It could be structurally screwed.
Yeah.
There could be pinions missing. There could
Yep.
be, and it's like, there could be an apiary in the attic, you know, like you
Oh
get
my
what
God.
you get, right?
It was scary.
It
a
was.
scary time. And that was also a really scary time to have an agent who didn't know anything about renovation.
Right, right.
Because like I've never felt scared of a house. Have I felt scared of stocks? Hell yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm doing. We once lost like 60K
Oh.
because we were idiots. Just don't know what we're doing. And I feel a lot of people feel that way with real estate as well.
Right.
Like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so step 1 is really to go in with a contractor.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a home inspection. So to get a home inspection, I have to do a 3 to, I think it's, don't quote me, but like it's a very small course that you need literally no education or very minimal
to take.
and be a home inspector. Like anybody could be a home inspector.
Oh, okay.
So I've met lots of home inspectors
Sure.
and some of them are amazing.
Right.
And other people have had a clerical job before.
Right.
Like it's just kind of switched over and they've learned.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the functionings of a house and I'm going to learn it. But you want someone with a bit more, like someone to go in and be like, this mold smell is reminiscent of
Right.
something. And
Right.
it's coming from here.
Right.
Let me go outside and look at the grading.
Right.
And see what the potential source could be. There is a big crack on this brick. It's coming from here and now there's a slant. Like, let me see, this looks structural, right? Or let me get a camera. Or where's the attic hatch?
Right.
Like someone
Yeah.
get your head in there.
Yeah.
You know, see what's happening in the attic. Is there knob and tube?
Because if you find that out 2 months later, too bad, so sad,
Like,
right?
I mean, things are going to happen. You're going to buy a house and they're going to be unexpected things.
Right.
That's fair, you know? But yeah, those big ones you
Yeah.
want to knock off, like a new furnace, a new roof, new electricity, a
For
structural defect. Like, you want to stay away from that.
Totally.
Anything that flooding, like floods, like water.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, unfortunately. If the house is flooded, it will probably flood again.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you want someone to do all that dirty work and to feel like responsible.
So the market right now, can you do conditions?
Yeah. Like that was a small, brief moment in time where even in Toronto, you can do conditions. Like I just, helped a colleague purchase a house a couple weeks ago and it
Mhm.
was in a hot Trinity Bellwoods area. So yes, we put a week condition. I was going to put 2 weeks. I even told him, I was like, sometimes the banks take a long time because it was
Sure.
a triplex
Oh, okay.
and they were willing. But again, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
It was a 1.4 million house sitting on the market for 30 days.
Right.
Now, if that same house was priced at $999, they
Yeah.
would be looking for very different things. They would be looking for someone that would be giving you a week to decide because they're looking for multiple bid war now,
Right.
the sellers, and it's a different strategy. So as a buyer, you have to go in that week and do your due diligence.
There is strategy, eh?
And maybe they would have gotten more had they priced it at $999.
Yeah.
And people fighting over it to bring it up to 1.3.
Do you recommend that?
I always recommend it when I'm selling, unfortunately. Not always. It's
You're so mad about it.
the price bracket, because that's the okay. So, take it back to common sense.
'Kay.
When you go to a show, like let's say an art show, completely different setting, and you go to someone's art show and they are killing it. They've got the red stickers everywhere.
Mhm.
You might be passerby and you're seeing the energy
Yeah,
of this person's sell, and you're like, I want a piece of that.
for sure.
You might not even like the art, but
For
you're
sure.
buzzing with someone else wants it. And that's
Totally.
human psychology.
It really is capitalism. I was looking at a shirt yesterday and they were like, one left in your size. I'm like, oh,
Right?
do I need that?
So that's, I think, as an agent,
Do I need that right now?
selling, I would be like, yes, you want that buzz. You want them all to come in at the same time.
Yeah.
Flood. And you want everyone to be, you want to hear the other person being like, I want it. And then B would be like, oh, I want it too. And then C
Yeah.
over there's like, 3. And everyone goes for it. And now you don't know because emotions have come in.
Yeah.
That
must
how
be
high that price can go. And that's mean in a way, because that's like using strategy and, feeding off of people's vulnerability to get a higher price. But it's real.
Yeah.
And there's two sides of the story. And
It must be great as a seller, but as a buyer, you're probably like,
as a
somebody
buyer's
got it again.
agent,
Somebody got it again.
you got to be a shark.
Right.
Like, you got to know the tools and the tricks. And at that point, if I'm representing a buyer, I'll be like, we're getting my contractor in right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at this head to toe.
Yeah.
So when the time comes, you can go in firm.
Right.
Right?
And firm, explain what firm
Firm
means.
is no conditions. So like, it's dangerous. It's dangerous, but that's a card you play.
But you brought in a,
You've got a deck of cards you can play. You can do a quick closing, which some people really find valuable because they get the money right away. So a 30-day closing is a good card. Like no conditions,
Yeah.
but only if you've done your
right.
which means talking to your mortgage and getting pre-approved.
Yeah.
Second would be doing a home inspection or getting contractors in.
Yeah.
Like finding out what you can without breaking the walls.
So much of it's timing, right? Like,
And luck. Some of
and
it's
luck. Oh
luck.
my God, 100% luck.
And your agent, not to give a lot of credit.
No,
to,
but
like they really are like informing you. And I think sometimes
totally.
people have a bad impression about agents. They're like, oh, but it's like going in with the lawyer or without a lawyer
Yeah.
to your own defender.
Right. You can defend yourself, but should you?
I don't know.
Should you?
But everyone that's experienced is going to be better. Or like a tattoo artist has been doing
For
it for
sure.
1 year versus
It might be
20
cheaper,
years.
but
You want to kind of get the,
for sure.
Yeah.
And Laura, honestly, like when we bought this house, she was signing papers with us at 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like it was like down to the wire.
Your life,
This is what's up.
Yes.
And I think a good agent is in those trenches with you.
feeling it and
I'm
like riding it
sure.
with you, which can be taxing.
I'm
If you can
bet.
be, if you're very busy, I took a year off last year.
Yeah.
Like a whole year off, just as like a sabbatical year, sort of, because it's really intense.
But you were kind of focusing on your own projects too.
You're right, but like in a way, I just couldn't handle any more intensity.
Yeah.
And like the pressure of buying someone's largest investment they'll ever buy in
Yeah.
their life, and essentially giving them the power to make money, be
Yeah.
quote unquote rich, or whatever that like
Yeah.
equation is. Because at the time we started, our net worth was what our one house was worth,
Right.
right? Which was 900,000. And at this point, from that one sale, when you accumulate our net worth at the moment, it's closer to like 10 million.
Right.
And that's insane.
It is insane, but
A lot
you've
of
made
work went into it. and
very
then-
strategic, smart, and also risky decisions, right? Like you really do need to
Yeah.
kind of like risk big to earn big, because
Yeah.
like you made the choice. It could have flopped. If you could have bought Coxwell and like half of the house could have fallen in, you know what I mean? Like you could have bought it and it didn't turn into whatever. You could have bought that plot of land in Peck and like it was shit and nobody wanted it. It is what it is. But like you're making these big kind of, again, grand, risky moves.
Yeah, for sure.
But real estate, what I'm hearing, seems to be a pretty, not safe, but smart place to invest.
It's this, in my opinion, again, it's an opinion.
Yeah. No,
but it is safe.
for sure.
If you know where you're investing, I think it is like 100% safe. And the reason I say it is because things will run out. Like you can find a substitute for a cashier. You can find a substitute for a lawyer.
Yeah.
You can even find a substitute for a real estate agent, but you cannot find a substitute for a home that you're gonna live in.
Yeah.
And that will always be a true thing
Yeah.
and a real thing. So the houses are not going to just disappear, and people aren't, I mean, we're going to die and we're going to be born and all this
What?
stuff. But like, houses will remain intact and there will be a need for them.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
So the plot that you just bought in Peck, will you be living on one of those?
So that's where our rash decision was 3 weeks ago. We're like, you know what? We've always wanted some peace and calm.
Yeah.
Why don't we just live in one of these houses?
So I
know?
drove up to visit Sheetal in Prince Edward County a couple of weeks ago. Our boys are the same age, so they were hanging out, and we went and we stayed at your mom's. But then we drove by this area where you're building, and it's like you have literally created these homes from nothing. Like Drew, you're not a draftsman. Oh, like sketches of ideas, found, I don't know, an engineer, I guess.
Yeah, well, we found a student architect to draw out our ideas, fully designed it from scratch. And then
And was it all three? Were there two? I feel like we saw two.
we saw two that were like, it's hard to imagine, but imagine like 50 acres. And then you took all the way at the one corner, we took 2 3-acre plots.
Okay.
So it was like right at the corner. And our actual home will be much on the other side, on another quadrant.
Have you broken ground on that?
No, because, we haven't. And we're also, in the works of creating a couple of rental homes.
Right, of course.
Income generating, of course. But just so that, like, because, the idea is like, yeah, you sell it and then what? And then, like, wealth will come from, like, rentals coming in, like 8 to 10K of rentals to provide for these builds.
So somebody had a question about that, actually. Can we flip to that really quickly? So if I am a senior couple, let's say, and my kids are gone, whatever, I'm looking to downsize, I'm going to sell my home. Would you recommend renting, or would you recommend getting into something smaller, or they diversify? What do you think?
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
Because it includes so many facets because quality of life to me is a really important one that you must consider.
Right.
So let's say you are a couple that has lived downtown all their life and you're downsizing. I don't think rental is a bad option.
Yeah.
Like maybe you want to be on the beach and you found this amazing,
renting is a bad rap, but
it has a bad rap because of and again, it depends on you, like the person. So are you okay if that person sells? Like, are you the kind of person that wants to stick and hunker down and be there for 10 years? Are you the kind of person that's like, oh, whatever. If in 1 year they want to leave, I'm going to go to Rome. Then that's sort of a
it is that old
type.
School mentality too of like, I don't have anything for my family. I don't have anything for my kids. And if I'm renting,
you're right.
There is no equity.
Yes. Let's go back to your astrological chart. Maybe you're really earthy. And
I'm air.
Root into an apartment and stay there until you die.
Yes,
and then I would not recommend renting.
Right.
Because you will be bitterly disappointed at 85 when you're not mobile. Then you want to be secure.
Right.
So I don't have specific advice unless I met that person.
Sure.
And maybe was able to see where they're at.
But it's not a black or white, right?
Really
it's not like, no, renting's terrible.
No, I don't. Terrible.
Yeah.
I think renting should, I have a lot of clients who took breaks.
Yeah.
From even, a recent sale of 1.4 triplex was a client that had bought a 600K townhome and then was like, oh, you know what? I just need a break from it all. Yeah. And then rented in the beach for a year and then decided to go into a triplex situation.
And you can get back in the market.
You can do anything you want in life.
I know. I think,
going back to Trump, if he can be a leader of a country,
honestly,
you can have crazy dreams.
Honestly,
and they will work out.
I think we kind of we're moving a shift from a boomer, for lack of a better word, because those are our parents who are very much, I think, fear, but also like, this is the way you do it. It is very black and white. You get married, you have kids, you buy a home. That is your home. You stay in that home. You die in that home.
Don't have to do that.
Your kids inherit that home.
You don't have to do that. And you can still care for your kids and enjoy your life. Like that's like my partner's grandmother was 101 when she died.
Honestly.
Lived in the same home. The cupboards were so hard to open and she never renovated her kitchen, did her windows single pane. And I just think about how cold she was in the winter.
Right.
And how she couldn't even climb up the stairs. But the whole time she was like, must do this for my son.
Yeah.
Her son was a lawyer and had his own and he didn't need it. And in a way, I want to say to my Mom, you're free.
Yeah.
From having to care about me.
Yeah.
And you should live your life.
Yeah.
Like sell your home if that's what you want. Keep it if that's what you want. Travel. I hope that it changes in reality.
Yeah.
With kids, especially our kids' generation, where it's like, but also not go the other way and leave nothing for them. Yeah. Like, no, leave something for them. Like, get an RESP, get a little condo.
1994 Dodge Caravan.
Right? Fix her up.
That's what I got left.
I
bought 3 properties. I did. I'm not even kidding. That's what I got for my dad.
Oh, okay.
And my sister wasn't even in the will. And I was like, I guess I'll give you half of the $800.
Don't even get me started on what dad's left you. Yeah, no.
It's true. Like, what do you think your advice would be? Not even getting into the market, but like an overview. I think there's an idea about real estate where people are very intimidated by it and they feel like it's something that maybe isn't for them. And love for flipping is not for me personally, but I can see you make the idea of having rental properties very enticing, like to have stuff like that. But there is
No, there's definitely cons to that too. And I can say so much negative about that too.
for sure.
But I think at the end of the day, my advice would be, I mean, so many people, and really fear is the driver, right?
Yeah.
Fear is the driver. Media influences that fear. But, and sometimes it's great, be informed, look at what's going on. Like right now, sometimes I tap out of what's going on in the media just so that it doesn't influence my decisions, because it is a calculated measure
Totally.
to keep people in check in a certain way
Mhm.
that promotes a certain thing. So that's fine. But like right now, people are asking, is it a good time to buy? And like, duh, of course it is. Like, yes, the interest rates are a bit higher, but not as high as they were like even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They've come down a bit. Things are sitting on the market. Like you just have to go to a public realtor.ca, look at the days on the market. And try to figure out, wow, this amazing house that would have sold for like 1.8, okay, back in the day, like 3-4 years ago, is now sitting on the market for 1.4 and can be had for 1.2.
Right.
So even if you factored in the cost of the higher interest rate, it's still an amazing deal. And with that 1.2, let's say we project the rates to go further down, which we do.
Yeah.
You have now gained equity, because now that 1.2 will pop right back at 1.4 in 2 years. And now you've made 200K just sitting on your butt for your house.
And how long is too long to sit on the market? Not too long,
too long for me.
Yeah.
A house, and this is a personal opinion.
Yeah.
If it's on the market past 2 weeks, you've done it wrong.
Really?
Priced it wrong. You've done it wrong. 2 weeks, obviously, like even in the rural places sometimes, but not so, like rural places have a little bit of a different market. But even in Whitby, if something was sitting on the market for 2 or 3 weeks, it's not priced right.
Yeah. For sure. Sometimes there's one particular house that I always look at, and it's been like 30 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, you guys are not getting this price.
And you priced it wrong.
You're not.
And it's okay to go and start and make a mistake, because a lot of people are so, like I've met with a lot of people like, no, this house is worth 1.45. And you're like, I know it is, but market is not saying that.
You know what's so funny? Whose uncle was selling his house in Brampton a few years ago, and it was a beautiful home, a large, whatever. And we were talking about it, and he said, their list price, blah, 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 blah. And I said, but what's it worth? Like, what's your house worth? And he said, it's worth what they're willing to pay me.
Yeah.
And I was
like, big check mark. Like,
you're
the
right.
market tells you. I think our house
doesn't matter. Yeah.
It really doesn't. And that will, I always say that's my favorite line. Like, we're going to do, like, this is what I would do. And if they're like, no, this is what I want to do. At the end, it's your house. You get to choose. I'm a facilitator, right?
Yeah.
So sure. And then the market tells us.
Yeah.
Is that a good price? So let's say you want to try it, because everyone wants to try the higher price.
Of course.
Even if it doesn't make sense, they want to try it. So it's like, okay, go ahead. And then you see that in a week or two, or even the first 24 hours are so telling, because all of a sudden the showings are coming in. And I can't say enough, it just goes back to common sense. Trying to understand what selling anything is like, including a painting or something like this. A house is really similar. One is, use your common sense, use what's happening around you. And two, you have to trust your agent, which kind of is hard. It's really, really hard in a world of everyone's out to get you. And it's true. There are probably con artist agents and con artists, everyone. But at some point you have to trust. And I feel like my clients who have given me that trust, they come out so well. Yeah. Because they were able to break it down and be like, you know what? I'm making this decision and I'm not afraid to fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it fails, what's the worst thing that will happen? And you work it all out. I once had a client who wanted to sell their house for 800 at a time when things were selling for 600.
Right.
And he interviewed me, like grilled me. And I loved it. I think you should interview the crap out of your agent. Like, go out to coffee with them. Have, really find out what they're about. Yeah. You don't need to just sign on with someone that you met once.
For sure.
Interview them, work with them for a couple weeks.
Can you do that? I feel like it's not a fit.
I always say that. Like, even though they're all rigid about, you need to get a document signed right away, I just openly say, hey, why don't we try it out and see if it works?
Have you fired people?
I have said no to people. Yeah.
Sure.
Only
Well,
in the last few years, because again, like,
if it's not a fit, it's
with-
not a fit.
also with 15 to 20 years, you also want to feel like I know what my worth is.
Yeah.
And so if someone is not giving me the trust and the respect, then, it's okay.
It's not for you. Totally.
It's not a good fit. And that's totally okay.
For
on
sure.
both ends,
For sure.
But yeah, my style's not going to be like that dude who's super aggressive. But who does someone want to work with in the end?
Yeah.
The sweet, intelligent person who's kind,
It's true.
and knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And is not like, you better get that. Like,
Yeah.
that can work, I'm sure, in certain whatever.
I wouldn't
situations.
like that. And if you guys aren't watching on YouTube, she's so beautiful too. Guys, it's a win-win-win-win.
Stop.
Okay, we got to go pick up our kids and you have your dog. Thanks so much. I feel like we could talk about this all
I
day,
know.
actually. I have when we hang up, I have questions just for me that I'm going to show you my bank statements. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I love you. And thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Things I Wish I Knew About. Now you know. And if you like this episode, I would love it if you would subscribe, or you could leave a review and share it with people who are maybe buying or selling or doing all the things. Where can people find you?
On the internet. You just punch in my first name, my last name, you add a .com, and you will get me.
SheetalLaar.com. We'll put it in the show notes. Thanks, guys.